Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Artist Dennis Thornburg grew up in the Pacific Palisades and graduated from Palisades High as an art major. Then he got a job after high school in Santa Monica designing display booths at trade shows. And is that what you had in mind as an art major?
Well, no, actually I wanted to become a commercial artist.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, at one time, yeah.
But then in between high school and college, you did a few other things. You went in the Marines.
Yeah, the Marines. did my little tour of duty there. And then I went into window trimming, tried to get back into the art field, and then I was in the printing business, and then I ended up in the construction business.
How did you come back and do window trimming? Just because you were in art display cases, you knew what to do?
And the art major type things.
Did it help?
Yeah. It gave me like kind of a more perspective on how things were to go together and what people would really like.
Did that lead into designing catalogs? Or
No,
did you have to go to school first?
I started getting interested in the printing business.
Oh, that's what led to it.
Led into doing art layout and stuff like that, designing letterheads and catalogs.
Were all those fields pretty open to you at that time?
Yeah, pretty much so. Yeah, there was like more of a demand for it at the time after I got out of the service.
So then when you went to school to major in art,
right,
you wanted to be a commercial artist, you said?
Yeah, I was going to go back into trying to be a commercial artist, but I went into more of the architectural.
Oh, that's right. And then you became a contractor,
right,
which, you know, is leading me up to these wonderful things on the set, because I know there's more. Your background has really brought you to this point. So I wanted to go through the interesting points of your background, which was a contractor, which led to probably constructing these things, designing, window designing, which also led
like
itself
the interiors.
Exactly, led itself to this, and also showcases, because you have to work within a dimension, don't you?
A particular confined area.
So when did you start building these sculptures?
About 3 years ago. I got hurt when I was a contractor, and I had to like retire early. And I decided to move out to the desert to get away from like the smog and the hassles and the traffic. And so I was sitting out there one day and looking across the desert, and I've always been prospecting. In between, I was always poking around in the desert someplace.
Looking for things. Yeah. Did you find any really interesting things?
Found shoes, jewelry.
Not interesting. Jewelry, maybe.
But, you know, like...
No bodies.
No bodies. But the biggest thing was the rocks and the way things were back in the 1800s.
But what led you into this Wild West period? I mean, just sitting in the desert doesn't really get you there, does it?
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah, I felt like maybe I was born 150 years too late.
Oh.
It's something that I kind of like, it fascinated me the way people were. They were more free. They had things to do, and they did them.
Were you reading and researching what was going on, or did
you
just...
basically 30 years ago, there was more to see out in the desert. It wasn't quite all dissolved or back into the landscape. There was buildings, there was pieces of like winches and steam engines and stuff like this that were still laying around.
So you used those as your models to build these miniatures, or did you use them in the models?
Well, the models itself is like, this is like my version. When I see a stone wall just a framework of a stone wall out there. This is my version of what it might have looked like when it was completed.
I see. So did you use movies? Were you thinking, did you see movies that reminded you?
Movies, I've like in school when I was studying art, there was books on old towns and stuff like this, and it always fascinated me.
But did you ever bring them into where you were living and look at them and say, this is what I'm going to make today?
No.
You never did?
No.
So
I
it's
just,
all
I find a place that, let's say, was an interesting artifact, like an old mine, like the rawhide here.
Are they historically correct, would you say?
Historically, we don't really know because there's no actual pictures of them.
I see.
But according to like structures that are left, this is what they might have looked like.
And you have them electrified, because we have them electrified on the set, so you can see
Yeah,
in the windows.
All the detail is inside all of them.
Well, let's start, since
Okay.
we've got this background. Tell us a little bit about this first one that's on the table
Okay,
here.
the rawhide, that is in Sonora, California. This is what was there. It was one of the biggest gold mines in Sonora at the time.
And we see the gold coming in on the...
Ore car, and then it goes into, like, inside there's a rock crusher that grinds it up, and then it comes down, and it's powderized, and then it goes into the smelter where the furnace melts it on down.
Where I see little mirrors inside of here, and
Well, the mirrors represent like a little stream.
and where do the rocks come from?
Okay, the rocks I get in about 4 or 5 different places. These are actually real gold ore from old abandoned gold mines.
So it's really authentic to this area.
Right. They're like the sand comes from a particular area up in the desert, and then I sift it to get a particular aggregate.
I see. Did you go up into this area, the gold mining area?
I've been up to Sonora one time.
Were you? So you
Yeah.
have a feeling of what was like. Did you collect some of these rocks and things up there?
Sometimes I do, like these rocks here that are around the building. These came from Oatman, Arizona.
Oh.
Whatever I see, I find, and like a rock or something, I'm always stopping at the side of the highway picking up stuff.
So it's basically not just California that we're looking at.
No, they go all,
Oh,
I
I
had
see.
collect stuff from all over. Wherever I travel, I collect.
I see. And this piece in front,
This is the Bodie-Benton Railroad, which never really materialized, but it's part of history. It was a floating railroad that never got to Benton, and it never got to Bodie.
and why was it floating? It was like just
Well,
in between, you mean?
it never developed to the point where the town wanted it.
Oh, I see.
So what they did is they turned it into a supply train to bring in supplies and wood and stuff like that to the mines.
Oh, so it was just going had a short
Yeah,
distance.
it never. The town ran out of gold before the railroad actually got there.
And we have more trees, it looks like, in this, and a little more greenery in this piece.
Okay, the greenery. This is all real material. They look like ocatilla bushes. Those are actually pine trees, parts of pine trees. My little barrel cactus are they're actually miniature pine cones.
Are they preserved so that they, in any way, that they're lasting?
Yeah, the dried flowers are basically they're preserved. But the trees and stuff, they're all natural. This is all just basically stuff that has already died out in the desert and it's just laying there.
Now, Dennis, what would you make 2 or 3 of these? Is this a series, or is this just one original
They're all-
Bodie?
All just one. I only make one of a kind.
I see. So they're all one of a kind.
Right.
Do you draw? Do you paint?
Sometimes I draw just to try to get a more of a perspective on what I want. And most of the time I just sit down and build away.
You just start making your...
I become back in the 1800s, I get involved where 18-hour days is nothing.
Do you have a big studio with a lot of light, or does
no,
it...
it's just pretty good size. I have more rocks than anything else.
This saloon down here is fabulous, because we've all seen saloons in Western movies, so that really comes home.
Yeah,
The wagon wheels up on top.
I kind of embellish on the saloons because I've seen pictures of saloons, and they're really kind of drab inside, and there's nothing except for like your big fancy ones in Virginia City.
But you talk about knowing also having the brass rails
Right.
inside.
I put the brass rails, spittoons, table chairs, and it's kind of hard to get down, but there's actually chandeliers up inside there.
Is that right? And
Yeah.
you make all this,
I
are they
make
made
all
out of
this.
glass?
The chandeliers, yes,
Pieces
they're
of-
made out of like little teeny glass crystals.
Do you use real heavy glasses like magnifying glasses to see what you're doing?
Not yet, but I'm getting close.
And the last piece we want to talk about is up here on top by you.
The Chemung mine is it's in Masonic County, or between like Masonic, California, and it basically looks like this today.
Is that right?
Right. It
Hasn't fallen apart?
Well, yeah, it's pretty well fallen apart. It's like this one here. It looks pretty beat up, but this is basically what's left of it today. And I put a water wagon in, and I built a steam engine that used to run it.
So you know everything that was going on in these particular environments, and you've added them even as far as the chandeliers inside.
The hardest part is finding the history.
That's what, yeah.
And finding history, or even any kind of an inkling of a picture of what it might have looked like.
Before we leave, would you make these on a larger scale?
I have, and I'm working on one right now.
And what scale would that be?
Well, it'll be 48 inches long.
So-
These are 32 inches long,
So it'd be
9
longer.
inches wide, and this will be 11.5 inches wide.
But nothing life size, as the
No.
contractor takes love.
I don't have to worry about inspectors here.
See, you know just what it is. You can do it yourself. It's
Yeah.
the art gallery. Have these been shown in galleries?
Yes, they have. I'm in Treasures of Art in Arizona,
Oh,
in
good.
Scottsdale.
This is a perfect place.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting for you to be here with us today. Thank
Oh,
you
I
so
thank you
much.
very
I know